Spencer Dutton's journey in 1923 Season 2 has been anything but smooth. From navigating dangerous territories to facing brutal decisions that could change his fate forever, one question lingers in the minds of fans. When will Spencer finally make it to Montana? His arrival seems inevitable, but with every twist and turn, it feels further out of reach. Will he make it in time, or has his path been rewritten forever? Spencer Dutton, the Dutton heir, has always had a tough road ahead of him. Yet, in 1923 Season 2, his journey has been more complicated than anyone could have expected. In the opening moments of Episode 4, we're introduced to a man caught between two worlds, the brutal realities of the past he can't escape, and the family legacy that pulls him toward the future. Spencer is in America, but he's far from where he needs to be, Montana. The question on everyone's mind is simple. When will Spencer arrive in Montana? Spencer's journey to Montana is anything but a straightforward one. The man who has fought in wars, hunted the wild, and lived through countless trials is now facing a challenge that might break even his hardened spirit: survival. Episode 4 drops Spencer into a situation that tests his ability to navigate the dangerous, unfamiliar terrain of America itself. The stakes are high, and every decision could alter the course of his life forever. His initial plan was to return home, but now, after a string of unfortunate events, he finds himself trapped in a web of complications that stretch far beyond his control. At the heart of Spencer's struggle lies his encounter with a dangerous mafia faction. It's a simple enough task at first: deliver a shipment of illicit booze to Fort Worth, Texas. But when the mission goes awry, Spencer is forced into a corner with nowhere to turn. As a man used to being in control, Spencer is left reeling. He's forced into hiding after the police catch wind of his involvement, and what should have been a routine mission spirals into a nightmare. Spencer's internal conflict becomes palpable as he is torn between doing what's right for his family and what will keep him alive. Spencer's journey grows even more perilous as he embarks on a train ride that seems like it might offer some semblance of escape. But just when he thinks he's gotten away, the dangers lurking in the shadows catch up with him. The train, which was supposed to be his safe passage out of the mess he's found himself in, becomes a trap of its own. In a twist that viewers didn't see coming, Spencer realizes that his real enemy isn't just the mafia or the police. It's the ruthless hobos he meets on the train. These three men, who live off the grid and operate by their own set of rules, pose a threat to Spencer's very survival. With nothing but his wits and a revolver, Spencer is forced to decide whether to fight or give in to their demands. The train ride becomes a ticking clock for Spencer. With no food, no cash, and no guarantee of safety, he must navigate this deadly encounter with nothing but his skills as a soldier and a hunter. The tension rises as Spencer faces the grim reality that he may not make it through this encounter unscathed. But even as he manages to fend off the initial threats, the question remains: will this train ride ultimately lead him to safety, or will it derail his already precarious situation? This chapter of Spencer's journey brings us to a moment of reckoning. The very thing that was supposed to bring him closer to his family and his home, the train, now feels like an enemy. The stakes feel higher than ever as Spencer finds himself at the mercy of these deadly strangers. And just when it seems like he might have the upper hand, Spencer faces the ultimate test of his resolve. He takes matters into his own hands, even when it means fighting off two of the hobos and making a choice that will haunt him for the rest of his journey. But in the aftermath of the battle, Spencer makes an unusual decision. Instead of throwing the bodies of his attackers off the train, he opts to leave them where they lie. It's a strange choice, one that raises more questions than answers. Why doesn't Spencer dispose of the bodies? Could this decision come back to haunt him? As he exits the train, now stranded and without a way forward, the tension mounts. The officer from earlier in the episode is still on his trail, and Spencer is acutely aware of the consequences of his actions. His involvement in the deaths of the two hobos could be used against him, and he can't afford to be linked to another crime. The choice to leave the bodies behind speaks volumes about Spencer's state of mind. It's a calculated move, one that demonstrates his desire to distance himself from the violence he's been forced to commit. But at what cost? Spencer knows he's treading dangerous ground, and the thought of being caught and further implicated in these deaths could be the end of his journey to Montana. In this moment, Spencer's internal conflict grows, and the path to his eventual arrival in Montana seems more uncertain than ever. Will Spencer's decision to leave the bodies behind protect him in the long run, or will it lead to a new set of complications that prevent him from reaching his family? Only time will tell. What's clear, however, is that Spencer's arrival in Montana is no longer guaranteed. The journey ahead is fraught with danger, and Spencer's actions have set him on a course that may be impossible to alter. As episode 4 ends, the question remains: will Spencer ever make it to Montana? Or has the weight of his choices doomed him to a life of wandering, forever separated from his family? The road to Montana seems like it's always just out of Spencer Dutton's reach. Episode 4 of 1923. Season 2 leaves us hanging in the air, wondering whether Spencer will finally make his way back to the Dutton property, or if his journey will continue to be derailed by forces beyond his control. But what's most fascinating in this second chapter of Spencer's journey is the way his decisions are slowly shaping the course of his future, for better or worse. Spencer's brush with death on the train, where he fights off the deadly hobos, reveals an important truth about him. No matter how skilled he is as a soldier, no matter how much training he's had, Spencer is far from invincible. And that's a problem. As much as he tries to maintain control, it's becoming clear that Spencer's path is full of hazards he can't predict or avoid. Every time he thinks he's found a way to escape, a new set of dangers presents itself. And with every fight, Spencer's chances of making it to Montana seem slimmer. But there's something else at play here: Spencer's growing isolation. As we watch Spencer navigate the rugged American landscape, we can't help but notice how far removed he is from the world he once knew. He's no longer surrounded by the comfort and safety of the Dutton Ranch, where everything revolves around his family and their legacy. Now, he's on his own, trying to survive in a world that feels colder, more hostile. Gone are the days when Spencer could count on his family's influence and wealth to smooth over any bumps in the road. Now, he's just a man with a gun, a soldier doing whatever he can to stay alive long enough to make it home. But Spencer's physical isolation is only part of the picture. It's his mental and emotional isolation that's starting to take its toll. The choices he makes, whether it's leaving behind the bodies of the hobos or continuing to fight when all seems lost, reveal the depth of his inner conflict. He's not just battling the dangers around him, he's fighting against the weight of his own guilt, the burden of responsibility that comes with being a Dutton. His choices are not only about survival, they're about maintaining the dignity and honor of the family name. He doesn't want to leave a trail of bodies or evidence behind him. He doesn't want to become just another ruthless killer. But can he avoid that fate? We start to see this inner struggle take form as Spencer becomes more desperate, more calculating. Every decision he makes has higher stakes. After the train incident, he knows he's drawing closer to a confrontation with the police, the mafia, or even his own family. His escape route is narrowing, and the walls are closing in on him. Spencer might have survived the train encounter, but the consequences are far from over. With the law after him and the mafia still on his tail, Spencer realizes that Montana is now more than just a destination. It's his last chance at redemption. But even that seems uncertain. In this section of Spencer's story, there's a noticeable shift in his character. He's no longer just a soldier or a hunter. He's becoming someone who's deeply aware of his flaws, his limitations. It's as if every challenge is forcing him to confront the parts of himself that he'd rather ignore. The more he encounters obstacles, the more we see Spencer struggling with his sense of identity. He's not just fighting external forces, he's at war with himself too. This creates a fascinating layer of suspense, because as viewers, we're left wondering how much of Spencer's own psyche is going to derail his mission to reach Montana. The tension builds further as Spencer faces a grim reality. He might never get to Montana. The train ride was supposed to bring him closer to his destination, but instead, it's taking him further away from his goal. Even when Spencer fights his way through the hobos and survives the encounter, he's left stranded without a clear path forward. Without the train to rely on, Spencer must find another way to navigate the unforgiving terrain that lies between him and the Dutton property. This isolation is only amplified by Spencer's increasing disconnection from the world he once knew. The train incident was a wake-up call. His actions, his survival, have placed him in an impossible position. His escape from one threat only brings him closer to another. The officer from episode 4 is still on his trail, and with every step Spencer takes away from the scene of the train fight, he risks being captured and dragged back into the mess he's trying so desperately to avoid. Even if he survives this encounter, how many more will follow? The more time he spends in this dangerous limbo, the more Spencer's hope of returning to his family grows dimmer. But it's not just the external threats that Spencer has to worry about. As his journey continues, we see a deeper emotional shift in him. Spencer's desire to return home, to Montana, is no longer just about reuniting with his family. It's become a desperate need for closure, for peace. After all the violence and chaos he's encountered on his journey, Montana represents more than a physical destination. It's the final piece of the puzzle for Spencer, a place where he hopes to heal, to find himself again. Yet, as we move further into 1923 Season 2, the arrival of Spencer in Montana feels more uncertain than ever. The longer he remains on the run, the more we start to wonder, has Spencer's moment passed? Is it too late for him to make it back to the Dutton property? Has his journey, and perhaps his fate, been sealed by the series of choices he's made so far? The suspense thickens, as each passing moment makes it feel like Spencer's arrival in Montana is slipping through his fingers. The question remains, will Spencer ever make it to Montana? Or will the forces around him prove too strong, forever keeping him from the family he's fought so hard to protect? As Spencer Dutton's journey in 1923 Season 2 continues to unfold, the walls close in on him from all sides. The stakes are higher than ever before, and every move he makes seems to carry the weight of the Dutton legacy. But there's more at play here than just survival and the pursuit of his final destination, Montana. Spencer is caught in a dangerous game of cat and mouse, where the choices he makes now may determine not only his future, but also the future of the entire Dutton family. In the aftermath of his violent altercation on the train, Spencer's position becomes even more precarious. After leaving the bodies of the hobos behind, he's forced to reckon with the reality that he's being hunted, not just by the law, but by the very forces he thought he could outrun. The officer who has been trailing Spencer is now a persistent threat, and Spencer knows that it's only a matter of time before he's caught. The law's interest in him is no longer just about the stolen booze. It's about the violence and the bloodshed he's left in his wake. In this tense cat-and-mouse chase, Spencer is not only trying to escape, but also trying to keep his past from catching up with him. Every decision, every encounter, becomes a question of how much further he can push before he's forced to confront the inevitable. But what's most fascinating here is the internal shift in Spencer. He's always been a man defined by his physical strength and his ability to fight through any challenge. He's used to taking control, to being the one who dictates his fate. But now, as the walls close in on him, Spencer begins to realize that he's no longer the man he once was. His physical prowess is still sharp, but emotionally, he's starting to crumble. The weight of everything he's been through, the wars, the loss, the violence, has begun to take its toll. He's been running from his past for so long, but now it's catching up with him, and it's hard to see how he can outrun it much longer. This shift in Spencer's psyche makes him more unpredictable, more dangerous. He's no longer just a soldier or a hunter. He's a man on the edge, a man who's not sure if he can keep moving forward. His internal turmoil creates an atmosphere of tension and suspense. He's a ticking time bomb, and viewers can't help but wonder how much longer he can hold it together before he completely breaks. Will his emotional fragility be his undoing, or will it give him the clarity he needs to make it to Montana? This question hangs in the air, adding a sense of urgency to the narrative. As Spencer grapples with his emotional turmoil, the danger around him continues to escalate. His immediate future is clouded by the possibility of being captured. With every step he takes, the officer and the mafia are right behind him, growing closer with each passing moment. But even with all this danger closing in, Spencer finds himself at a crossroads. He can't outrun his past, but he also can't let it dictate his future. His family, specifically his brother Jack, is a constant reminder of what he stands to lose. Spencer may be isolated from them physically, but the bond between them remains unbroken, and that connection is what keeps him fighting. Every day, every struggle, he's pushing forward with the hope that Montana, his family, and the life he once knew are still within reach. Yet, the closer Spencer gets to his family, the more he realizes that he might be too late. The Dutton property, The one place that should feel like home may no longer be the sanctuary he remembers. The forces of corruption and violence that have been plaguing the land since the start of 1923 are only growing stronger. The very idea of Montana, once a symbol of refuge and peace, now feels like a battleground. The question lingers. Even if Spencer makes it there, will he be able to protect his family from the impending storm? Or will he arrive too late to change anything? The suspense continues to build as Spencer's pursuit of Montana becomes intertwined with the larger struggles of the Dutton family. His arrival is no longer just about him. It's about the legacy of the Duttons and whether they can survive in a world that seems increasingly hostile. As Spencer approaches what seems like his final destination, the tension is palpable. Every moment spent on the run, every encounter with danger, builds towards a larger, more devastating conclusion. Will Spencer be the hero who saves his family, or will he be yet another casualty of the violent world that refuses to let the Duttons live in peace? As Spencer makes his way through America's unforgiving landscape, there's an overwhelming sense that he's being pulled in two directions, towards the past and towards the future. He's fighting against his own inner demons, against the choices he's made, and against the forces that threaten to destroy everything he holds dear. But the question remains. Can Spencer truly escape the ghosts of his past? Or is his fate sealed, caught in the ever-tightening grip of those who want to see him and his family fall? Spencer's struggle to reach Montana is a powerful metaphor for the larger themes of 1923. It's a story of survival, yes, but it's also a story about redemption, about trying to reconcile who we once were with who we hope to become. Spencer is caught in a race against time, not only to reunite with his family, but also to find a way to come to terms with the legacy he carries. In this section of the script, Spencer is forced to confront the harsh truth. The path to Montana is no longer just a physical journey, it's a spiritual one too. Every choice, every struggle, is leading him to a moment of reckoning. But what kind of man will Spencer be when he finally arrives? Will he be the hero who saves his family, or the one who brings them down? Only time will tell. And the suspense is only just beginning. Spencer Dutton's journey through 1923 Season 2 continues to spiral into the unknown. As he navigates the unforgiving American landscape, it's clear that each decision he makes is shaping not only his own fate, but the fate of the entire Dutton family. With danger around every corner, the mounting tension raises the stakes higher than ever before. The question of Spencer's arrival in Montana still hangs in the air, but as we get deeper into his journey, it's hard to shake the feeling that the path ahead may no longer lead where he thinks it will. The closer he gets to his destination, the more it seems like his arrival will not be the reunion he hopes for. The weight of Spencer's choices is heavy on his shoulders. After narrowly escaping the mafia's clutches and fending off the deadly hobos on the train, Spencer finds himself facing a different kind of battle, one against the relentless forces of law and order. As the officer from Episode 4 continues to track him, Spencer realizes that his every move is being watched. The law, which was once something he could avoid or dismiss, has now become an ever-present threat. The officer is no longer just a figure on his tail. He's a symbol of the larger system that Spencer has been trying to outrun. But in this game of cat and mouse, it's clear that the officer is not the only enemy Spencer has to worry about. The Mafia, too, has its sights set on Spencer. After the disastrous mission to deliver illegal booze to Fort Worth, the Mafia isn't content to let Spencer slip away. They want their money, and they want revenge. Spencer's involvement in the botched mission has painted a target on his back. And as the consequences of his actions continue to unfold, the tension between him and the Mafia reaches a boiling point. He's stuck between two worlds, caught between the law on one side and the Mafia on the other. And the question becomes, can Spencer survive long enough to reach his family, or will these forces catch up with him before he can make it back to Montana? While the immediate threat of the law and the Mafia looms large, there's something even more sinister at play here: Spencer's internal struggle. As he continues to evade capture and fight for his survival, we see him grappling with the emotional and psychological toll of his journey. The violence he's had to commit, the lives he's taken, has started to weigh heavily on his conscience. It's no longer just about survival. It's about the man Spencer is becoming. The burden of his actions starts to eat away at him, and it's clear that he's questioning whether he's still worthy of the Dutton name. The hero we once saw in Spencer, the man of action, is now replaced by someone who is questioning everything he's ever believed in. And this is what makes the suspense so gripping. Spencer is no longer just fighting for survival, he's fighting for his soul. The turning point comes when Spencer is forced to confront the idea that he may never be able to escape the life he's chosen. The world he's living in is relentless, whether it's the mafia, the law, or the constant specter of violence. There's no safe haven for someone like Spencer. His escape routes are closing, and his sense of hope is fading. And yet, despite all this, there's still a flicker of determination in Spencer's heart. His desire to make it to Montana, to return to his family, remains his driving force. It's this glimmer of hope that keeps him moving forward, even when everything